Hi guys, let's grab a coffee and let's talk about books. It literally took me years to read the book, 100%. I was like, okay, I don't love that. Forced myself to finish this book. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am so glad that you're here and that you clicked on this video. This is a very, very exciting monthly wrap up for me. April, I've known for months now that this was going to be a really big reading month for me. And it was. So I read 13 books in the month of April. In this month, we had a lot of brand new releases. A lot of my most anticipated books for the entire year came out this month. And so we have a lot of them that I read. Actually, like almost all of the books that I was really anticipating for April, I read. So with that being said, I would love to jump in and just get started on reviewing with the first book that we started the month with, and that is Say You'll Remember Me. I always want to say Just for the Summer, which is a different Abby Jimenez book, and I literally almost say it every single time. So Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. This book was one of my number one anticipated releases. It might have been, this was probably tied with Emily Henry's Great Big Beautiful Life for like number one spot of most anticipated read, but I probably had like 5 in the month of April that are like competing for like, they were like, I was so excited for all of them. And this was one. Abby Jimenez is one of those authors. I've read almost every book that she's written. I love the Part of Your World series by her. I think it's like one of my favorite romance series that there is, one of my favorites that I've ever read. I really love Abby Jimenez. I think that she's amazing. And so I was very, very excited. This is also the start of a new series. So just like the Part of Your World series where they're interconnected standalones, this is going to be the same. So this is the first book in like a new interconnected standalone romance series by Abby Jimenez. So really brief overview of what this is about. It's basically a vet, and this girl takes her dog to the vet because actually I don't even think it's her dog. Now the beginning's getting fuzzy, and this, I've read so many books since then that this is already becoming like confused in my head. But I think it's not even her dog. I think she like found a stray dog or something like that. And she goes to this vet, which everybody kept referring to this vet as looking like Rhysand from the ACOTAR series. We'll get into that in a minute. But so he's like this really tall, handsome, broody veterinarian, and she takes her dog to him, and he kind of really randomly like asks her out. It's really nonchalant and strange. It's just like one day they're kind of like, they don't really like each other, and then all of a sudden she comes in and he's like, you want to go out with me tonight? And she says yes. And that's kind of how it starts, and it's a little insta-lovey from there. So from that date, they literally spend that one date together, and from there they're kind of like in love with each other. But she is dealing with family issues. So her mom has dementia, and her family needs her to come back to California to help take care of her mom. And so she tells him, like, I'm really sorry, but we can't continue this because I have to move back to California to take care of my mom, and I don't want to do long distance. And it just kind of goes from there. Obviously, they end up, I mean, it's a romance book. So obviously they end up somehow continuing to talk and meet up, even though she's in California. So now on to my rating of this book. When I first finished Say You'll Remember Me, I gave it, I think, a 5-star. But I was teetering. I was teetering between a 4 and a 5, and I gave it a 5. About halfway through the month, I went on Goodreads and I changed my review, because the more I thought about it after reading it, the more I was like, okay, I don't think it's 5-star. So I bumped it down to a 4-star, And literally, the more the month goes on, the more I want to lower it more and more. And so I'm going to force myself to stick at a 4-star, because I just don't want to keep like lowering it and lowering it. But I feel like there were things about this book that I really did not love compared to some of my favorites by her. One of them was that I really did not like the constant reference of TikTok and Akotar specifically in the beginning. That was a little bit cringy to me, and I don't know, I just do not like it. So that was an immediate like turn off on this book. I was like, okay, I don't love that, but I just moved past it. I was like, we're just going to keep going. It was also really, really sad. More sad than usual for a romance book, and that is okay. I actually feel like a part of me really liked that. I like that the romance genre in general is starting to move towards more like women's literature, women's fiction with a subplot of romance than just steamy romance with no plot. I love that. I love all of these romances that are like more like a women's fiction than they are a romance. Those are my favorite. That is my favorite category of romance. And this did fit into that category. It was just really, really sad. And often had me feeling like there was no hope. Like, how are we going to find the, like, what's the word, guys? The resolution to this issue that they were dealing with. I don't know, but it was fun. I still really enjoyed it. By the time I finished the book, I was still having very positive feelings about the book. So like I did really like it. I do recommend it. I just felt like it was maybe different than I expected. Like maybe I just was expecting something very different and this wasn't it. And so if that's the case, then I feel like maybe down the road, if I decided to reread this before her other ones come out, I think I would enjoy this one even more. Moving on to the next book. So I'm just going to say that I am sticking to a 4-star with Say You'll Remember Me. So that is my final rating for that book. Every single book that I have read by Fredrik Backman, the next book that I finished, I had technically started before Say You'll Remember Me, and I put it aside to read that one, and that is Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This was the second book that I finished in April, and I finished this and immediately watched the movie because I've waited since the movie came out and it was in theaters. Like a whole group of my friends went and saw it, and I literally told them no, that I would not watch the movie because I was waiting to read the book first, which is like so silly. Like I don't know why I am the way that I am sometimes, but this is one of those times where I was like, Sarah, you were just being so stubborn. Like it literally took me years to read the book. And I feel like if I would have watched the movie, I actually would have wanted to read the book a little bit quicker, but whatever. It is what it is. It's in the past. So I finally picked this up because Sunrise on the Reaping came out. And I have wanted to read Sunrise on the Reaping so bad. I love Haymitch. And so I was waiting for that book. And I knew that I would push it and I wouldn't read this until everybody else was reading Sunrise on the Reaping. And I was jealous. And so finally, I picked up Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And I ended up giving this one a 3-star. I love the Hunger Games series. I love it. I love it so much. The whole series, like book 1 through 3 is 5-star for me. I absolutely love it. This one, I gave a 3-star only because I didn't have much interest in Snow Story, period. Even once I was reading it, like a lot of people said, like, yeah, before I picked it up, I wasn't really interested. But once I started reading it, like I was in. And I felt like even once I started reading it, I wasn't really interested. I had to like force myself to finish this book because I knew that the events in this book were going to be important from now on in all of the future books that Suzanne Collins writes. I knew that these events would be important, so I forced myself to finish it. I did really enjoy it. I mean, with that being said, I enjoyed it more than I expected to. I still give it a 3-star. I still think this is a 5-star series for me. And I really, really, really love the entire series. I love the way that this really does fit into the storyline so well. As we know Hunger Games, like all we know is that Snow hates District 12, and we don't really know why he hates them more than others. And I feel like this book gave us that understanding that we needed. And then it just added to the emotional trauma of Sunrise on the Reaping. So I think that this book is incredibly important. I think that it does need to be read in publication order. I mean, you can technically read Sunrise on the Reaping without reading this. I just think that you're going to be missing out on a lot of information that would really make so much more sense, if that makes sense. So 3-star for Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I did enjoy it. I do recommend it. It should be read in publication order. And that's all that I have to say about that. The next book is a new book that I got in one of my latest book shopping vlogs. I ended up getting The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. So after I finished Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I wanted to take a little break from the Hunger Games series, but not a long break, because I knew that I was very, very quickly going to be jumping back into Sunrise on the Reaping. And so I was like, I just feel like I need a little quick palate cleanser, like something that's going to be short, sweet, to the point, very engaging, very like that I could just binge the whole thing, basically. This was the perfect book, and I cannot wait to buy the rest of the Naturals series. I loved this book. It was so good. It's this little YA murder mystery type story, but add a little bit of a magical element to it, because I think these specific kids have certain abilities or gifts, things that they're really good at. And so it's basically almost like this, it feels like it's like a spy school or something. It's this very, very small school of kids who are really, really gifted at certain things that help solve cold cases. And so our main character, Cassie, gets asked to come to this school because she's really good at reading people. And she ends up coming to the school to help solve a murder, and it just kind of goes from there. It was very, very, very enjoyable. The ending was very shocking. It did end on a little bit of a cliffhanger, enough to make you want to read the next book. I really, really, really enjoyed The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I ended up giving this a 4-star. And I think that that's a perfect rating for this. It's not a 5-star. It's not one of the best books I've ever read, but it was very, very, very enjoyable, and I definitely would recommend it to people. So that's all I have to say on The Naturals. Then from there, we did read Sunrise on the Reaping, and I do have a vlog for reading Sunrise on the Reaping. This book tore my heart out and stomped on it. This book made me sob. It was so sad. It was really amazing. I feel like Haymitch's story is one that a lot of us fans of the Hunger Games series has waited for years and years. Just because from the first Hunger Games book and movie that there's, we know that he's a winner of one of the games. In the books, he does talk about how he's a winner of the 50th Hunger Games, which we know that on all of the big marks Hunger Games, there's always something really special about the competition. So he was the 50th, which meant it was double the tributes from every district. And then, in Catching Fire, I think it's Catching Fire. Yes, in Catching Fire, they're fighting in the 75th annual Hunger Games, and it's all the winners against each other. So we knew that, at least the people who read the books definitely knew that that something happened, and that Haymitch was kind of scarred from his year in the games. But we didn't know what it was exactly that made him, so traumatized, I guess. It seems like it was more than the usual of victors of the Hunger Games. Like, he was more broken than normal. And I just felt like that it always intrigued me. I loved his character, especially the more you read through the Hunger Games series, you really learn to love his character a lot. I guess not everybody does, but I definitely did. I loved Haymitch from the start. And so when I heard that this book was coming out, I knew this was one that I was going to be so, so excited to read. And it definitely, I'm sure you guys can see this coming, but this was a 5-star book. It met every expectation and more for what I had in my head thinking that this book was going to be. I absolutely loved this book. It was so, so good. It was the perfect, I don't know, it was everything that us fans could have asked for. I really loved it. The only thing that I had as a negative side was that I felt like the ending got a little rushed. It went from like his telling his story, and then like all of a sudden it jumped to like when like the end of the Hunger Games series. Like I felt like it missed like 20 plus years of time. Like it just jumped and we didn't really see much. I don't know. And maybe that's because nothing really happened. I mean, he was kind of like a recluse. He just drank 24/7 every single day, and he never really came out of his house until he had to, which was to watch more and more District 12 tributes constantly die. Which is why by the 74th Hunger Games, when it's Katniss and Peeta, he is just so negative. He's borderline rude. He's just this grumpy drunk that they're like, how are we supposed to win the games when this guy is the guy who's helping us? But I loved it. I really, really loved the book. I ended up giving it a 5-star, and I think it was so, so great. Then I moved on and I read Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. This is one that has it was kind of random. It's been on my TBR for a while. It's been on my Kindle for a while. And I've heard that it's technically like a romance, I think, but sorry guys, I have to keep stopping because I literally cannot get myself to stop yawning. I don't know what is happening this morning. I'm like halfway through my coffee and I cannot stop yawning, but I'm going to try really hard to stop. What I was saying is it's considered a romance, but it is more like tragic and sad than a typical romance. It's more like it's kind of more like general fiction with like a subplot of romance. No, it's like a general fiction where the main focus of the story is a romantic relationship, but it's not a typical romance where it's guaranteed that the characters will end up together in the end, if that makes sense. It was really enjoyable. I liked the story. I'm giving it a 3.5 star. I felt like it's not quite a 4, but it's not really a 3. I definitely recommend it. I enjoyed it. It wasn't a waste of my time, but it isn't super memorable. And I feel like it's one of those books that as soon as it was over, I was kind of like, okay, moving on. Like, I don't know. It just wasn't something that's really like sticking with me, or characters that I don't know, guys. I do not know. But I'm giving that a 3.5, and we can move on because the next book is one of my most excited books, or most exciting. And that is My Friends by Fredrik Backman. I was so, so lucky to get this sent to me from Atria. They sent me this copy to read and review before the book actually releases on 5/20, so May 20th. It is May 1st right now as I speak, so we only have 20 days until this book is officially out. and in people's hands to read, which is very, very exciting. I am a huge, huge Fredrik Backman fan. I love Fredrik Backman. I love his writing. I love the way that he describes characters. I literally, so far, every single book that I have read by Fredrik Backman, I have absolutely loved. And this was no different than all of the other books. So I ended up giving this a 4.5 star. I just loved it. I literally loved the book so much. It was just so good. And we are following our main character, Louisa, and she's basically an orphan. She's been in the foster care system for years and years, tossed from home to home, never with a family that actually loves and cares for her. She's been mistreated, and basically in the foster care system, she has found one friend that they have just stuck together like they are two peas in a pod. And this friend's name is Fish. Now, Fish is wild, and Fish is crazy, and she gets into really crazy things, and she does crazy things. And I think there's like a line where it says that like Fish is good at like almost anything, and she is really good at like breaking into places, and she's really good at graffiti, and she's really good at this, but then it's like, but she's not really good at breaking out or something like that. And then it like jumps into a story of them like breaking into, I think it was a library or something. Maybe it was a museum. I can't remember. And like them getting like caught or something. It was just really good and enjoyable. I loved Louisa. I thought she was a great main character. So Louisa basically, to continue my synopsis because I went off on a tangent, Louisa has carried around this postcard of a very specific painting for years and years. And her biggest dream has always been to get to see this painting in person. The painting is called A Painting of the Sea or something like that. And she's waited years and years to get to see it. And one day it is in an auction, in an art auction. And so she takes after her friend Fish, and she breaks into this auction dressed as somebody who may work for the auction. And she finally gets to see this painting up close. And when something goes wrong there, she's running from the auction, and she kind of bumps into this old man on the streets, and they just start talking, and they start graffitiing the back of this building together. And as they're like graffitiing, he like spray paints this skull, which is the signature for the artist that paints the picture of the sea that she has loved for years and years. And so like as she has to keep running because the cops are after her. But as she's running, she realizes that all along this old man that she just happened to bump into is the artist from the painting that has meant so much to her for years and years. So it kind of takes off from there. It's very, very fun. And that is just the beginning of the story. That is just the build up to the main thing that actually happens that is the whole rest of the book. I just don't want to give away too much. So that is all that I can say without like giving away any details. But let me just say, I loved Louisa. I love how fun and quirky she is. I love that all of Fredrik Backman's characters are so unique and quirky. It is one of my favorite things about all of his characters, is that they're so unique and different. And he just writes from their point of views like you are truly in their head. I don't know how to describe it, but he is just such a phenomenal author, and his writing style is just so beautiful and lyrical. Like there are just some lines that could just simply have said like the thing that he wanted to say, but instead it had to be like beautifully written. And one of the things is he said he paints like the birds sing. And I was just like, man, like he just writes lines that are just so beautiful. So I ended up giving this a 4.5. I feel like the more the month goes on and the more I talk about it, I think that it is a 5-star for me. And I don't know why I was just maybe being really stubborn and critical on the book, but I can't come up with something about it that I didn't really love. I really did love it. And the more time goes on, the more I still think about Louisa and the other group of characters that you guys don't know yet. But I really, really loved this story. I loved the theme of how important like friendship is and how important being there for one another is. I mean, we are following and hearing the story of many, many very broken teenagers and teenagers that never had a really good home or a really good family, and just how important having people in your corner is through that. And I really, really loved that. I thought that this was a phenomenal book, and I am, in my review right now, I am upping my rating to a 5-star because I really did love it, and it was just so, so good. So definitely, as soon as this book comes out on May 20th, please go pick up this book and read it. It is so, so worth the read. So that is all that I'm going to say on My Friends. Next, the next book that I read was Watch Me by Tahereh Mafi. This is book 1 in a series that basically takes place after the Shatter Me series. So it's in the same world, it has all the same characters, but it's like, I want to say like 15 years later from the events of the first Shatter Me book. And this is following a different character that is in Shatter Me, but is now grown up. And he is now the main character. And I thought that this was really, really fun and enjoyable. I don't really think that I can say much about this story without giving away the events of Shatter Me. So unfortunately, I won't give a synopsis for Watch Me. But what I can do is I can talk about Shatter Me. Shatter Me is a dystopian young adult series about a girl. It's really a world where some kids have magical abilities. And our main character, Juliet, has this really unfortunate ability that her touch is lethal. So if somebody like literally touches her arm, if they hold on long enough, they literally would die. And it's very unfortunate. And in the very start of this book, she has been locked up for 264 days in this prison because people think that she's like intentionally hurting people, and she's not, but she is locked away. And finally, somebody comes and they are taking her out of the prison, but they want to use her as a weapon for the reinforcement, which is basically the government in this world. And she doesn't want to be used for evil for the reinforcement. And so it is basically this really, really crazy, really fun ride. It is 6 books. There's also 6 novellas that go along with every book. So they have these little novella bind-ups that look like this. And these are 2 novellas in one story. So as you can see, this has Shadow Me and Reveal Me, which are 2 different novellas. They usually stop like halfway through. Like you can see it says Find Me, and then like halfway through it says Reveal Me. And you can look up a reading order for this series because it's actually, I know that it looks complicated, but it's really not. There's 6 books and 6 novellas. After every book, there's 1 novella to read. So after you read the first book, this is actually like one of the later novellas. This goes with book 4 and 5, I think. There's the first novella goes with books 1 and 2. So you read book 1, you read the novella. You read book 2, then you read the other half of the novella. Then you read book 3, then you start the first novella in here. Then book 4, you read the other half of this. So it basically is, it's really not as hard as it looks, and it's so enjoyable. And I do think that these novellas are pretty important. You don't have to buy the bind-ups. I bought the whole series. but I do think that you should read them. So even if you just get them on your Kindle or something, or like they do have just the books of all of these individual novellas. So I definitely think that they're important. Please read them with the series, but you don't have to buy the bind-ups for them. But that is pretty much all I can say about Watch Me and even just the series. But I will say that I gave Watch Me a 4-star. And mainly it's very YA still. So if you're not into young adult books, then I just don't think that the series would be for you. But I absolutely love the Shatter Me series. It's a huge, huge nostalgia series for me. I could reread Shatter Me over and over and over and just never get sick of it. So I feel like for me, Watch Me was incredibly nostalgic, and it was like just getting to jump right back into a world full of a ton of my favorite characters, and I loved it. So I did give Watch Me a 4-star. All right, next. I think this was probably my number one book of the whole month of April. It was one of my number one releases for this year, and that is Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. Can we let's just take a moment to talk about how gorgeous she is, how gorgeous this book is. This is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition of Great Big Beautiful Life. And I do have a vlog of going and getting this book. So if you guys do want to watch that vlog, I will like link it at the end of this video. But the funny thing is I went and got the Target exclusive the morning that this came out. And I was like actually really bummed because the picture online did not match what the book actually looked like. And so I ended up going back out. I like reserved this copy that night, and I went back out the next day and returned my Target copy and bought the Barnes & Noble exclusive because the price difference was not very big. Like I literally think that I paid like $22 for this, and the Target one was like $21. Like I'm almost positive there was like $1 difference. I did end up getting a sale on this because I reserved it online. Like I went and purchased it online and had them hold it for me at the register, and for some reason they had some sort of sale if you bought it online. So I did end up getting a little bit of a deal because I don't think that this was, it says that it's $29, but still, like I was so happy that I ended up getting this copy. Also, the Barnes & Noble exclusive is one of the only ones that doesn't have like the irremovable sticker at the top that says, I can't remember what it says, but there's like an irremovable sticker on almost every copy of this book except for the Barnes & Noble exclusive. So I am really, really happy that I went back and got this one. I just personally did not love the Target one once I actually had it in my hands, but I do love this one very, very, very much. As much as I actually loved the contents of this book. I think that it's going to be quite obvious when I start talking about this book that this was a 5-star. So I'm just going to throw it out there. This is honestly like a 6-star for me. I loved this book. This was 100% my new favorite Emily Henry book. No questions asked. This is my number one. If anybody's going to ask me what book should I read by Emily Henry, Great Big Beautiful Life. 100%. I know that other people might not feel that way, and that is totally okay. I do love all of Emily Henry's books, but this was the one, guys. This was the one for me. These were the characters for me. Alice and Hayden have my heart. I absolutely love them. I loved this story. Amazing. Amazing. I absolutely loved it. So let's get into a brief general synopsis. This book is following our main character, Alice Scott. She is a writer, and she wants to write the story of this famous woman. Basically, it's this couple that was married in, like, they're a very famous Hollywood couple. Her name is Margaret, and she was married to a guy named Cosmo, which for all of the Seinfeld fans out there, yes, I did. In the beginning, when I first started this book, I couldn't help but picture Cosmo Kramer, but I have since that's not the case anymore, but it was like that in the beginning. So Margaret was married to Cosmo. Cosmo is a famous singer, kind of like Elvis Presley. He's very, very famous in this world. And Margaret was married to him, and something went down, and nobody has ever gotten to hear and write about their story. So it gives a little bit of like the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, if you did read that by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was kind of similar to that story. So I really, really loved that. So where Hayden comes in is that as Alice is meeting with Margaret about the potential of her writing Margaret's story, she finds out that Hayden is a very, very, very famous writer, and he is also meeting with Margaret about the possibility of writing her story. So Margaret tells them that they're both going to sign an NDA where they can't say anything about what she tells them. They're both going to sit down with her every week for 30 days, for a whole month, and they're both going to start writing the story, and Margaret will get to pick which one gets to actually have her story in the end and write the book. So it's a little bit of like a competition, kind of reminiscent to Beach Read. It's just very, very fun. And this was the most like women's fiction with a subplot of romance than any of her other books. And I think that's why I loved it so much, because the plot line of this book had me on the edge of my seat. Like, I did not want to put this down. I was absolutely obsessed with the story from the first page. I loved it so much. I was in love with Allison Hayden from the first page. Like, I loved this story. I loved every time we got to hear her meeting with Margaret and we were getting Margaret's story. I was so like enthralled in her story and the story she was telling. I loved this book. I cannot stop thinking about it. I can't stop raving about it. It's just one of my favorite books. Honestly, one of my favorite romance books I've ever read. I loved it so much. And now I understand that it might not be for everyone, and that really is okay. I definitely get that. Emily Henry's writing is a little bit different. And her writing just isn't for everyone, and that's okay. But if you haven't given Emily Henry a chance, or you have and you didn't love one of her books, I would definitely recommend, if you want to see if there's another book for you, this might be the one. Very, very intriguing. I loved it. Literally like 6-star read. One of my favorite books ever. Absolutely loved it. So now that I can stop raving about Great Big Beautiful Life, we can move on to the next book that I read, which is the only Emily Henry book that I do not own a physical copy of, and that is People We Meet on Vacation. This was a reread. I do want to start by saying that. I read People We Meet on Vacation was one of the first Emily Henry books I ever read. I think I read Beach Read first and then People We Meet on Vacation, but I can't remember. Those two might be swapped. And the first time I ever read it, I gave it like a 3-star, and I said that I didn't really love it, mainly because of the miscommunication and the like wishy-washiness of the two main characters in this book. And so I still feel like that that exact reason, the miscommunication trope and the back and forth between our two main characters, I gave it a 4-star this time, but I did up my star rating just 1 star because I did feel like I really enjoyed it a lot more than I did the first time I read it. And I definitely didn't want to put it down. Like I was all in this time. I was very much like into the story. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. Not one of my favorite Emily Henrys, but I can definitely say that there isn't a single Emily Henry book that I've read thus far that I have not really enjoyed. So I do love Emily Henry so, so much. And that's pretty much all I'm going to say about that book. Next, this was when I started my 24-hour readathon. So you can also go check out that video. That was very, very, very fun to film and do. I really, really loved that that, like, just making that video in general. And the first book that I read in that readathon was Heavenly Bodies. This is one that I actually started in the beginning of the month, and basically just I had a really hard time getting into it and like wanting to read it. So I ended up reading this in my 24-hour readathon and forced myself to finish this book. And here's how I felt about it. The first 72 pages, and I know 72 pages because that is chapter 10, and that is where I lost interest. The first 72 pages were really good. I was very interested. I was here for the story. I loved the way they were setting up the storyline. I really, really liked it. I liked the world building. I liked all of it. After that 72 pages, I felt like there was like 200 pages where I was like, we're kind of losing sight of our main plot here. Like, what I feel like they set up the beginning of the book to have something specific that they were like working towards. And the whole middle of the book, I was like, what are we working towards again? Like, what are we doing here? What is the point of this? And then the last 100 pages was like nonstop action, could not put it down, like really, really good. So I gave this book a 3-star. I'm sticking to a 3-star. I enjoyed it. I would recommend it to certain people, but I'm in no rush to jump into the second book. Yeah, and that's pretty much all I have to say about this one. This was definitely one that, first of all, TikTok kind of made me do it, and second of all, I saw it in Barnes & Noble with like the exclusive edition, and I caved, and I was like, okay, I love the exclusive edition. I don't know why, but I just think that something about this is just so pretty. The like gold foiling on the front, the purple edge. I loved it, and I really wanted to have it. So I did it. I read it. We can check it off the list of TBR books. Then this is actually my last like really big anticipated release for April, and I did read this in my 24-hour readathon, and that is Fearless by Lauren Roberts. I loved Fearless. I gave this a 4-star, and I've been considering ever since I rated it, bumping it up to a 5. And I think I'm going to stick to a 4-star, but just know that I really did love it. And I felt like this was the perfect ending to this trilogy. And had me so excited. Like, Lauren Roberts is definitely now a auto-buy author for me. I will read anything that she writes. The fact that she wrote this at like 21 years old, 22 years old is absolutely insane. Can we just talk about that? Like, this girl wrote a whole trilogy from the ages of like 18 to 21. Like, how? She's amazing. This is a book series about a girl named Peyton who lives in a world where there are ordinaries and there are elites. Peyton is an ordinary, and ordinaries are killed by the elites. The king thinks that the ordinaries are basically like ruining the bloodline of the elites, and he thinks that they all need to die. And he also puts on a like championship at the palace where a group of elites are basically pitted against each other in these like games. So there's like the trial trope, there is love triangle trope, there is just, there's a lot of like really typical tropes in this book, but I would say that I do think that she like does them really, really well. And I just really love the series. The second book is the only one that I felt like dragged a little bit and felt like it was just like a placeholder to get us to the third book. But the third book was excellent, and I could not put it down. And if you want to watch my reading vlog on this book, definitely go check out my 24-hour readathon, because there's lots of like surprise emotions, like lots of things. So definitely go check out that video. This was a 4-star. Really, really, really loved Fearless. Then we're down to the last 2 books of this month. So this was the last book that I finished in my 24-hour readathon, and that is Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan. I didn't have much time left in my timer, so I had to pick something really short, and this has been on my physical TBR for a while now, and so I was like, great, we're going to hit 2 birds with 1 stone. We're going to mark a book off of our physical TBR and finish another book in the readathon. This was the perfect little palate cleanser romance book. It's kind of more of, again, I don't know how many times I'm going to say this. Clearly, this is my favorite genre, but this is more of a general fiction with a subplot of romance. This was more about she is a mom and she's going through a divorce, and this is kind of a story of her figuring out who she actually is without her being a mom and a wife and a daughter and all the things. It's like learning that even sometimes late in life, you need to figure out who you are without all of your titles and all of your things, you know? It was really good, really enjoyable, really, really quick and easy read. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was definitely worth the read, and I ended up giving this a 4-star. And the last and final book, I actually just finished this one last night, and today is May 1st, so this one just barely made it into the monthly, like the April wrap-up. Goodness gracious, I don't know why I couldn't say that. And that is Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage. I actually started this one and read like 30% of it in my 24-hour readathon because I had like almost 2 hours left after I finished Summer Romance, which actually really shocked me. I got through Summer Romance a lot faster than I expected to. And so I jumped into another really quick, short romance book, which was Lost and Lassoed, which is the 3rd book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. And I definitely enjoyed it, but I do feel like I ended up giving this a 3-star, and it was really fun, don't get me wrong, but I have definitely been feeling like I am really starting to move away from the extra spicy romance where this was like a romance in every sense of the word. Like, it's just this silly little cheesy country small town romance. And it was really, really cute and enjoyable. And I understand why a ton of people really love this series. I just personally have really realized lately that I don't love the story to simply just revolve around 2 characters' romance, period. I really love when there's more to the story and more going on. And so I just felt like this was definitely a 3-star for me. And again, this was a really, really fun romance book. So I see and understand why like so many people love it. If you love the silly, cheesy little like small town country romances, this is definitely the series for you. You would love it. It's just a little too spicy for me. And I feel like the spice isn't really worth like the plot of the book, if that makes sense for me. That is my own personal opinion. So that is it. That is all the books that I read in the month of April. I read a lot of really, really, really great books this month, and I hope that this video convinced you to pick up some of these books. These are really, really great reads. There was a lot of really good ones, 5 stars in here. So thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for watching my channel and subscribing to my channel. It literally means everything to me. I just do this as a fun passion project. And when people subscribe and comment, it literally means the world to me, to be gaining little besties online just to chit chat about books. I absolutely love it. And if you do like my videos and you want to see some of me reading some of these videos, I do have multiple vlogs recently of reading like Great Big Beautiful Life, all of these, Fearless. They're all in vlogs on my channel. So I will put them down below and on the screen up here. So thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.